The City Council's special meeting to order at 5:40 p.m. Item number 2, our roll call. We do have a quorum of council. Item number 3, our public comments. City Secretary, do we have any public comments?
No, Mr. Mayor, we do not.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, our discussion and possible action. 4A, receive a presentation on the utilities, presentation by Shashi Kumar, Director of Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to provide you a very high-level update on utilities, specifically the city's Mustang Bayou service area. Before I do that, please allow me to introduce our new Assistant Director of Utilities, Amanda Reese. Amanda, if you could please rise.
All right.
Amanda has been with us for about a month. I didn't want to put her today at the podium, but I can assure you that she'll be at the podium the next time around, and I'll be in our seat there. Mayor and Council, you're aware that Missouri City is very unique when it comes to utilities. The primary reasons the MURDs were created was to extend utilities to serve as a reimbursement mechanism for the developers. The developers would extend the utilities, then use the MURDs as a mechanism to get it reimbursed. And the MURDs had the ability to recoup the cost of investment in utilities infrastructure through tax rate, which was rolled over the period of the amortization, which paid for the utilities, and or the user fees paid for the operation of the utility system. You know that we have 30-plus MURDs in the city. In most areas, it's like that, except the Mustang Bayou service area. In that service area, which is a city service area, we are paying for the extension of utilities, including plant capacities, and we do that through what we call the impact fees. The City Council passed an impact fee ordinance, and that's how we pay for plant expansion and expansion of utilities. We're not recouping 100% of our costs because we want it to be enticing for the developers to come here and do business with the city. Now, the other ways where we try to recoup our costs is through tourists or other sources such as grant funds and sometimes through impact fees. Just to give you an overview of the Mustang Bayou service area, this is located at the quadrant of Fort Bend Toll Road and Highway 6. Within these boundaries, we do have 2 municipal utility districts, MURD 47 and 48. This is where we're experiencing a lot of growth and a lot of new development that's taking place. Over the last 5 years, we've grown a lot here. It all started off with Amazon, some residential developments such as Dry Creek and Parks Edge. We're adding what we call about 500 new connections per year. A connection equates to 1 home. So that's an average that we're growing. And again, we have an agreement with 2 of the MURDs, 47 and 48, and we are wholesale providers of utilities for them. We supply potable water, and we also treat their wastewater. To be very frank, extending utilities in this Mustang Bayou service area has been a real challenge because it does take about 5+ years to bring plant capacities to place. It does take time to extend utilities. It's been a challenge for us for 2 reasons. One is the funding. We do not have the same tax base as these MURDs have to collect the revenue to extend utilities. We rely on impact fees, and impact fees are paid almost at the time of the development or platting. So we got to get the revenues ahead so we can strategically plan and extend the utilities. That's why it's been a little challenge here in the Mustang Bayou service area. Now, as you can see in that chart, we're currently, give or take, at about 5,100 connections, and at ultimate build-out, we're supposed to peak out at about 8,000 connections. Currently, TCEQ, our regulatory agency, regulates the number of connections we can have. We are currently at 5,333, and we have just a couple of hundred approximate connections left in the Mustang Bayou service area because of the growth that we're experiencing. So we are working on both short-term and long-term solutions to expand capacity and keep the development going. But we do have some challenges, and we want to present to you what the plans that we currently have. The number one is on the water side. We have 2 water plants. One is called the Water Plant 1, which is located by Creekmont. The other one we call water plant number 2, which is at Fort Bend Toll Road. If you're going on the toll road, you can see that at Lake Olympia Parkway. The well at water plant 1, we are fixing to add a new pump and upgrade it. It'll provide additional capacity or yield, and that can support 600 to 800 connections. And as I said in my earlier slide, we are growing at about 500 connections per year. That's our number one project that we've been working on. We have already initiated the project. We believe we can get that in by end of this calendar year. Recently there was some funding opportunity that was called for by Congressman Al Green's office. This is one of the projects where we have submitted funding for, and we're fairly confident that we can move forward. We're also working for other solutions as well. To the south, we have what we call Sienna Regional Mud, and we can interconnect with them. What we mean interconnect is tie the two water systems. That can provide some additional capacity, but more important, it can provide some kind of a redundancy. If our water system has some issues, we can rely on that system to provide water capacity. We're also fixing to do the same thing with Fort Bend Mud 23. We've already met with Sienna Regional Mud. They're willing to be a cooperative partner in this effort, but we're also fixing to meet with Mud 23 to have similar kind of arrangement as well. Now, coming to the long-term strategies, at the water plant number 2, which is by the Fort Bend Toll Road, we are trying to install a new groundwater well. The existing well is old. The yield has kind of decreased. We want to put a new groundwater well. We have already initiated that project as well. A new elevated storage tank. Where after you exceed a certain threshold of connections, it is recommended to have an elevated storage tank. It provides the pressure, it provides the redundancy. Then the long-term plan has always been to convert Mustang Bayou surface area to receive surface water. You know that we have a surface water plant. Currently, majority of the surface water is delivered to Riverstone and Sienna. So this is next in the plan. So when the conversion is complete in approximately 3 years, that will be our full-fledged water system that can support the Mustang Bayou service area, and the groundwater wells will then become a source of backup or redundancy. We are doing a little better on the wastewater side. We finished the phase 1 and phase 2 expansion, but we also need to expand our wastewater plant for ultimate capacity to meet the ultimate build-out of the service area. That is something that we need to be working on as well. So what is our path moving forward? Since we're getting tight on capacities, we are seeing what growth is coming. There are several projects, they start, they pause, they start, they pause, but we want to get an accurate forecast of what's coming immediately in the pipeline to the extent possible, do an accurate forecasting of what growth is coming. And oftentimes when the development community comes or before they purchase land, they want a commitment from the city that there is utility capacity available. Now, sometimes we give them the capacity and they are a no-show for the next 5-10 years. So moving forward, since we are very tight on capacities, we will be very careful in issuing those kind of capacity letters, because we want to ensure that if we were to do that, we can stand with those commitments. Now, the other piece of it is the funding. Traditionally, we have not recouped full costs through impact fees. We have relied on tourists and other funding sources. Last year, we got $7.5 million funding from tourists to fund wastewater projects. So we're going to be doing that same this year to see what kind of capacities in the tourists to see we can fund some of the infrastructure projects. Here is some policy for council to consider. To be very frank, in the Mustang Bayou service area, till now we've been subsidizing development. We have not been recouping our full cost of extending utilities because we're not recouping 100% through impact fees. Now, to a certain extent, because some projects were economically sensitive for the city, the Amazons, the Fort Bend Town Center 2 and 3, we've also extended the utility lines to serve those developments. Now, we do not have the funding nor the timeline to extend utilities to serve every individual tracks. Remember, that's the typical function of a MUD because they're able to recoup those costs. So one of the things that we have to consider is, should the city just focus on expanding plant capacities, the water and the wastewater plants, Extending the lines to serve individual developments, should we leave it to the developer? That is one of the recommendations that we have. And obviously, when we do that, we have to revisit our impact fees because that makes a difference as well. If we were to go on the current path, we cannot fund all these projects. We do not have the ability to fund all these projects. Now, again, out of the pop, the developer will come and say, I want to develop this tract next year. Can you extend the utility line for us? We're not in a position to do it. We think that should be best left to the developer to do it. And again, impact fees is not sufficient. We will need tourist funds, potentially grants, and potentially we may have to tap into general fund to fund some of these utility projects. So what is our recommendations moving forward? Obviously, we're working very aggressively to implement the short-term projects, especially on the water side. Until we have this capacity analysis complete and we go through the exercise of increasing our connections counts with TCEQ, issuance of capacity letters for new developments may be delayed. And looking at our philosophy now, do we want to fund plant expansions and not do the retail line expansion? Based on that, we'll have to reevaluate our impact fees that we charge for developments. This is the path we want to move forward. There's a lot of work that the city has to do. We have to get a better accuracy on the connection counts that are coming in, working with our partners 47 and 48 to assess what's coming in the district. Get a list of projects that we need to implement and the timeline of those projects, as well as the plan on how we are going to fund those projects. That's also very important. So this is intended to be a quick update on where we are on utilities, but we intend to come back to you in the near future at a city council retreat and talk a little bit more about regionalization and how we can fund these utility projects to support long-term growth. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Shashi. We do have a few members that wants to ask questions or share comments. I'm going to start off with Councilmember Boni.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple of comments. One, I'm in total agreement that we can't continue to kick the can down the road. We have to address it and pass those fees on to the developers. We can't keep undergirding these projects and creating more and more of an issue long term for the city. So however we get there, I'm supportive of trying to figure out what makes sense, as far as a fee structure. But I think that we need to do something sooner than later. The second thing I was going to say is one of the discussions we've been having, I serve on the Water Resources Committee at HGAC. Justin Bauer is the Director of Community and Environmental Planning, and he works with our group. And I broached the conversation and subject about regionalization and trying to include Missouri City in those conversations as we are growing. And I told him that we needed to have various conversations, workshops, and get the information out there, especially with the number of MUDs that we have here in our city, actually have most in the state. So I just think it's important that we work with also HGAC and have those continued conversations with them as they're already thinking and talking about some of the things that they can do to help the region improve their water projects and situations that are of need.
Councilmember, we know that you represent our policy. You are our policy representative on the board, so we'll rely on your funding to keep moving some of these projects as well.
No pressure. Right. All right. Thank you. Shashi, I do have just a few questions. When you say impact fees, when was the last time we looked at that?
It was about 2 years ago, maybe 3. But somewhere around the last 2-3 years ago is when we updated it. Just to give you a relevance, our impact fees per connection is somewhere in the range of $7,500, give or take. Some cities charge close to $20,000. So when I mean subsidizing, we are really subsidizing.
Right. So I guess the reason I asked that is also, and I do see that, future council retreat topic. So one, we can do it with an impact fee, readjusting it to maybe comparable to other cities that are similar in size. But does that alone will help this cause? If it's not, then, we probably won't need to go back and look at making it regionalized or some sort of thing. Because what I hate to see happen is when you have people coming to develop our city, you know, what we tell them is, well, we're not going to have utilities there for 5 to 7 years. They're going to go spend their money somewhere else. I mean, I would if I were them. So it's a catch-22, right? You really don't want to lose, depending on what the project is, but also at the same time, you know, we can't be the person that's charging the highest. But somewhere along the lines that we needed to talk about, because this problem is not going away, right?
Right. And part of the problem is we have a set limit by TECQ. We cannot exceed that. But we have not had adequate processes in place to ensure when that development is going to occur. So as Sashi mentioned in his presentation, we have people coming and getting capacity letters where we're restricting the capacity, but they may not build their development out for another 5 or however long it takes. And so we've got to put a better process in place that puts some time limits on that capacity, because otherwise we're just giving up capacity without seeing any results.
And I know, can you talk about that? Because since Shashi mentioned the help from Congressman Al Green, and I know recently I've sent you something that he's looking at the key. Have we applied, or can you let the
Yes.
council and the public know what that was?
Yes, we had a short turnaround for projects to meet certain criteria, and they had to be shovel-ready projects. And so one of the projects that we were able to submit was increasing our capacity by improving. Let him take over the specifics, but we were able to meet that requirement. Hopefully, if we get that, that will address the short-term needs that we define, that will give us the additional connections and help us to have additional capacity.
Right. Shashi, can you go into details? Because
Yes.
I just forwarded the email.
Thank you, City Manager. Mayor, 2 specific projects that we've added, and I think that grant funding, what we have applied is for close to $5 million. One is upgrading the pump to increase the current capacity, which is the short-term project. The long-term is a new replacement water well. So those are the 2 projects that we have submitted, and to the tune of $5 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Morales.
Councilmember Boney mentioned one of the things I was going to say. So, is this a local issue, Sashi, or do we find this amongst other municipalities?
We find this among other growing municipalities. I don't want to name them at the podium. I'm in touch with another public works director. They're going through the same thing. And recently, eJoy shared with me a news media outlet where another city is going through this one. So this is one of the things with fast-growing communities.
Right.
Because since the time lapse for getting these utilities is about 5 years, you gotta have planned 5 years ago. Otherwise, you're a little too late.
Yeah, and I wanted to point that out because you started off with saying how unique we are and how different we are. That's not why we're here. I mean, it is sort of, but at the end of the day, it's a kind of a problematic issue for growing cities, which is also a good thing. And then, like I mentioned, Councilmember Boney talked about it, but I don't mind working with developers to help them invest in our city together. Certainly, I don't want to slow down growth, but we can also be selective in growth and work with those people to build out our city.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Recognizing Councilmember Riley.
Thank you. Shashi, great presentation. Most of my questions were answered through the other council members' questions, but I did have one question about the impact fees with the future development that's coming in. If we were to keep our impact fees the same or increase them, and there are projects in the queue, will they be grandfathered into that old rate, that old fee, or?
That's a great question. Last time we did that, we ran into some questions and issues. We do it in such a way, typically the council has preferred to do it in a way where we give certain date, a moratorium, and after that we charge the new impact fee. So we're considerate in the sense that we won't snap it and say that tomorrow it's a different fee and today is a different fee. I think the council has been very considerate in taking into account those things.
Thank you for answering that question. And I really want to just applaud you for your forethought in bringing this to us ahead of schedule before it kind of goes down the road and the can keeps getting kicked. So thank you so much.
All right. Recognizing Mayor Pro Tem Clausen.
I just want to clarify. So, as far as the timeline we're looking at, are you saying 5 years?
Well, when I mean to say now, let's say for Mustang Bayou service area, we want to build a wastewater plant that can accommodate the ultimate growth.
Okay.
From this date, it takes 5 years to build a project like that. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
All right. Recognizing Councilmember Brown Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. Shashi, just a few questions. I was curious, how do you forecast growth demands accurately?
Well, I will caveat by saying you can't do it accurately. You do the best of your ability because we talk to our partners, 47 and 48, which we are now. We've asked them to say, give us a timeline of when, a 1-year timeline, a 2-year timeline, and a 5-year timeline of what you think the projects are going to hit the ground. Mm-hmm. And we're doing the same from our side. But again, it's driven a lot by the economy, the interest rates, and whatnot. So to specifically answer your question, I would probably say we can more accurately forecast, but to accurately forecast it is a very tough job.
Okay. And I had two more questions. When will the capacity analysis be complete?
We're expecting another 2 months for that to be complete.
Okay.
Probably before the time we come to council next time, we'll have a better sense of the growth projections and what projects are needed and what level of funding is needed.
I think that would be most helpful, especially if we're going to take this under consideration at the next retreat. If we could have that in time, that would be most helpful. And then I think my last question is probably more of a legal question. So, Joyce, in terms of the capacity letters that we've already issued, especially to developers whom have not came and built their project, is there a possibility, and you don't have to answer tonight, I don't want to necessarily revoke those letters, but I would like to see if we could amend those letters, giving them a time frame so that we can free up some of our capacity.
That is certainly something that we can take a look at and then provide you all with additional information on.
Okay, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Recognizing Councilmember Emery.
Thank you, Shashi, and thank you for taking my question and getting it answered, okay? Because that was one of my questions was, we have some developers who are out there who have a long-term view of when they were going to do things, but, that takes away from the capacity we have for projects that are going to be maybe more immediate. So I'm looking forward to the input from legal to see what we might be able to do to kind of free up some of that committed capacity that is kind of sitting out there waiting. The other question I have is as far as priority, as far as giving out capacity letters, when I say priority to specific developments that are coming in and asking for capacity letters, do we have the opportunity to look at where that development might be to see whether or not it fits our comprehensive plan, so we can set some priorities? Let's make sure that we're giving capacity out to the people or to the developers that are developing that, like I say, that fit our comprehensive plan.
I think that's a great question, and I know the city manager's hot topic is the update of the comprehensive plan. As part of that, I think what the city manager has also charged us is to look at the utility capacities. Not just look at the plan of what the growth needs to be, but does it have the utilities to serve the growth? So that is going to be commingled as part of the comprehensive plan update, and we'll be looking at it as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Recognizing Mayor Pro Tem Clauser.
One last question, Sashi. You stated that $7,500 was the average of fees for developers. Is that?
Our current utility capacity fees is somewhere $7,500 change per connection.
Okay, and the rest we're subsidizing, correct?
That is a subsidized version of the fees. Our full cost for recovery when we last did the update was somewhere in the tune of $15,000 per connection.
Okay, so we're subsidizing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Seeing no one else on the queue, thank you, Shashi.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Item number 4B is to receive a presentation on court collection contract for fines and fees.
Mayor, I'd like to go into executive session to ask legal questions.
Sure. What's the number?
It is 551.071.
Okay, so 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. We're going to go into executive session and we'll be back. City Council, now we convene back into the City Council special meeting. Okay, item 4B, we have a presentation by Brittany. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Recently, we went out for RFP for our collections for the court fines and fees. We started the process in late fall so we could open the solicitation up in December. We wrapped up the solicitation in February. We had 7 submissions total for this round. We convened a panel of 5 city employees to evaluate each submittal. Out of the top 3 submittals, we did a comparison of their value-added services. We had a recovery resolution rate for the top 3 firms. We have our value-added services, and we went through and marked which firm provided what across the proposals. And what we're looking to do in our KPIs for this contract period is we're going to modify them a little bit, with the first letter being mailed within 24 hours of us uploading the file to them and they're approving it into their system. Once that letter goes out, there'll be a first phone call within 48 hours. By the 45th day, there will be a second letter mailed out. By the 60th day, a third letter. Anytime we do a withdrawal or cancellation from their system, it'll immediately happen on their side. And then a fiscal year annual report will be provided by the firm with a collection rate of 25% minimum. Later this evening in the regular session, we have the action item on the consent agenda for the recommendation from the panel to move forward with our existing firm for the next contract period. With that, are there any questions you all have?
Thank you, Brittany. We're going to go ahead and start off with Councilmember Boney.
Maybe, I don't know if the vendor's here, if it's going to be on the regular meeting. I had some questions specifically about some of the offerings that they have that the other firms, would they be able to answer that here, or should we wait until the regular meeting?
I believe Linebarger is here.
Oh, okay. Are they able to? Linebarger, are y'all able to come?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. The 2 questions that I have, thanks for being here, are about the offerings that you all have. If you could explain the scofflaw program.
Yes, sir.
As well as the insurance verification.
Yes, sir.
Or as value add.
The scofflaw program is one that the firm has implemented and used with other clients to help enforcement with regards to delinquent citations at the city locations at different clients. The scofflaw program is one where the vehicle registration is denied based on placement of data through state DMV. We manage that program for the city and send the data to DMV and remove that data once it's been satisfied at the court level. So it is a tool that we use and implement on behalf of clients in order to enhance enforcement. The insurance verification program is one where we verify whether or not automobile insurance is actually in place. If that happens to be a violation that is being considered by the court, a motorist may be stopped and has no valid insurance. And they show up at court and say, yeah, we have insurance, and here's my card, I just didn't have it with me. If the court sees fit, they can send that data to us, and ask us to verify that information. And it's generally done within 24 hours. We can get in touch with the insurance company on behalf of the city to make sure that that insurance is actually valid and issued to the defendant appearing before the court.
Thank you. Bill?
All right. Recognizing Mayor Pro Tem Clauser.
Hi. Are there any, I have two questions. Number one, are there any added services that you're offering this contract period versus last contract period, or deleting any services?
The added services for this contract period, the only ones that may be different were ones that the court suggested that would be helpful to them that may not have been available or offered the last time around. I don't think that there's anything new that I can't. Can you think of?
I think everything is the same. There were some things that we haven't implemented, like scofflaw is an example of one of those that was available in the current contract that we would look into implementing this time around as a tool.
Okay. Okay. And then my second question goes to our city manager. City manager, was there anything that changed, I guess, in the RFP process, anything in the documents that changed from when this was first presented to us to today?
No. This presentation has been available for about a month.
Okay.
Without any changes
Okay.
whatsoever.
And the recommendation has always remained?
Recommendation has been, I think there's confusion when it says staff. Staff is the city manager. So anytime it says staff, please know that that's city manager, because city manager is the staff.
Okay.
The recommendations come to the city manager, and the city manager makes the final decision on what comes before council.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Recognizing Councilmember Maroulis.
Could we go back 2 slides where you have the performance measures? So the last bullet, a fiscal annual collection rate of at least 25%. I remember having 2 exhibits in the past, Exhibit A and B. A was for court fines and B was for false alarms. The 25% applied to the court.
Court, correct.
So what is this 25%?
That is for court. The alarms is going to be in a separate RFP.
In a different RFP. Okay, that helps.
This time around, they are separated out.
Okay. And then in prior presentations, there were a lot of questions about the definition of annual and overall, and we hashed that out. Have we put that in writing? Does the city know exactly what that means now?
We have worked with them over the last year, and now we have a fiscal year report formatted from them.
Okay.
And in the coming contract, we would further define that as well, but we have a new format for the report, for the annual report. You just haven't seen it yet because we were in the middle of the RFP.
And we understand the timestamps, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then lastly, this slide says it all right, performance measures. So how are you going to measure?
So I have access to their database, and I have access to when I sent it and uploaded it to them, and we can go in and check cases, either spot check or check every single one to see that those measures are being met.
Is there not a formal, it's just you pick a day and do it if you have to?
We do it by month, so I do a monthly upload, and I would go through that whole month if I'm doing every single one and check each one.
Okay. And Mayor Pro Tem Clauser mentioned something that was important, and I want to say that, like, the first letter mailed within 24 hours, what was it before?
15 days.
So there's an improvement. So I think that was the answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I was thinking of value added, sorry.
Me too.
And then there's others in here that mention weeks and days and hours. Now we're down to days. So I think it's important you highlight that.
Right. So currently, the way the contract reads is the first letter, it goes out within the first 15 days. By the 120th day, 2 additional written letters go out. By the 180th day, 4 letters total go out and 4 more attempts, whether it's in writing or by phone call. That's the current contract. Current contract as well has the 25% rate for the annual yearly rate. Last year, for FY23, they came in at 28%. So they exceeded the mark.
Thank you.
Recognizing Councilmember Riley.
Thank you. Most of my questions were answered by the previous council members, but I did want to say thank you, Brittany, for the presentation and the thoroughness of it. And also to you, Richard, thank you so much for pointing out the improvements that Councilmember Maroulis had mentioned, because I think it's important that we know that you guys have changed and tweaked a little bit of the expectations in the contract, and that we're doing more expediting efforts to get our collections. But I would like to ask Brittany if you could provide council with that report so that we can take a look at that as soon as this process is complete.
The fiscal year for
Yes.
last?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Recognizing Councilmember Brown Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. Since she asked that you provide us with the report, that will be great. But would you tell us right now if the report is trending closer to the 25% metric in which you're proposing?
It came in at 28% for FY23.
That's awesome. Okay, thank you for sharing that. And then going back up to the comparisons, I was just curious.
The value added?
Collections, RFP review, this one, right?
Okay.
Training opportunities, community and industry involvement, no checks there.
Yep. There was one firm that had that in their proposal, so we included it because they did list it.
I see.
We just did the top three after the panel scored.
Okay.
So one firm had it, so if either or any of the three firms had a value-added service, we included it and just marked which one had it.
I see. Does Linebarger offer anything like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, we
It just
always
wasn't
have
in your
been.
I thought so.
Yes.
It just wasn't in your proposal.
Yes, I suppose that's correct.
So if it had been in your proposal, it would be safe to say
It would have an X.
it would have an X there as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Recognizing Councilmember Boney.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you, Councilmember Maroulis, for pointing that out as far as those adjustments that have been made, or the performance measures and recommendations for the new contract should the council vote to move with staff's direction. But I also wanted to just encourage staff. You know, last time we had this conversation, we weren't utilizing warrant roundups effectively. And so we started doing that. And did we see any results after? Because that was offered to us in the previous contract. We just didn't utilize it, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so now we are using it, and we saw some results, some effectiveness now. So I just heard earlier that we hadn't been using the scofflaw program. That's a part of the current contract, and so I'm just trying to understand why we're not taking advantage of all of the offerings that the contract allows us to, so that we can collect dollars. Because I mean, in looking up what scofflaw program does, I think that would be a very effective tool for us to try to encourage collections or delinquents to come in and pay their fees and fines, so that especially if their licenses and registrations are tied up as a result of that at the state level. But at any rate, I just want to encourage us to make sure that whoever we go with, if it's in the contract, that we're maximizing uses of what they're offering. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brittany. Great job, this presentation. So, Richard, I have one question. Is there anything new?
Sir?
Just kidding. It was just a simple question.
Oh,
Could have been yes or no, but you were kind of thinking there was a twist to it. Not really. Well, thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I had one. Yeah.
Recognizing Mayor Pro
I
Tem
don't know why I
Clausen.
wasn't in the queue. Before you go, kind of along the lines with Councilmember Boney and Councilmember Brown Marshall said, can you pull that slide back up? That last, yes. The training opportunities. Richard, you said that y'all offered that, but it was not in the contract.
The training opportunities are the training that we bring to the city with regards to the introduction of any of the new offerings in the software that the city is using that is compatible with the Linebarger software, and most of it is. Like the ability to look at cases that have been referred to Linebarger individually to see whether or not letters have been mailed. And Brittany mentioned being able to have access to that data. We provide the training for the city staff to use that particular service to look at any of the accounts and any other, when we introduce the scofflaw program and get that up and running, there'll be training with regards to use, with regards to how that's being done by
Okay.
Linebarger as well.
Okay, because my concern was that there were opportunities that you're not offering that were not within the contract, and so that's what I was getting at, was that were there opportunities that were not that are listed that you didn't put in the contract?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No,
that's
ma'am.
where I was going with that. All right, that concludes my questions.
All right. Okay. No one else have any?